Hello everyone, and welcome to this morning's webinar. We're so excited to get started with today's session titled Showcasing the Value of Project Lifecycle Management with Wrike and WoodWing. We have a great session mapped out for you all with a customer spotlight with our joint client Sanoma Pro, which is the #1 leading educational publisher in Finland. My name is Magdalena. I'm a product marketing manager with WoodWing, and I will be kicking us off this morning. So firstly, I would like to introduce the other speakers who will be joining us for today's session. We have Sarah Brady, who is a customer success manager with Wrike, Tuomo Suominen, who is a development manager with Sanoma Pro, and finally, we have Samuli Jokipaltio, who is an enterprise partner with WoodWing. To begin, let's cover some general housekeeping and run through the agenda. I will start by giving you an introduction to WoodWing, which will be followed by Sarah, who will give you an introduction to Wrike. We will then move on to our customer spotlight section, which will be led by Tuomo, where he will give us an insight into how Sanoma Pro has utilized both solutions to handle project lifecycle management. We will then show you a live demo before closing out with a Q&A section. The demo will be showcased by our partner Smartium that introduced WoodWing Assets and Wrike to this top educational publisher in Finland. All attendees are currently on mute, but please feel free to use the question box on the right side to submit your questions throughout the session. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. WoodWing provides the technology for leading brands, agencies, and publishers to tell their stories. What we do is we provide solutions for content orchestration with which brands, agencies, and publishers can take the content-first approach. Our solutions are tried and tested by world's leading publishers, organizations which are organizations with complex content creation demands, such as Hearst, Forbes, Our Media, Axel Springer, Sanoma Pro, and many others. Behind that engine of content orchestration, we have two solutions. One is WoodWing Assets, which is our digital asset management solution, and the other is WoodWing Studio, a multi-channel content creation solution. I would really like to mention that we actually have an offer integration or connection with Wrike from both WoodWing Assets and WoodWing Studio. Because this webinar is a use case on connecting WoodWing Assets and Wrike, I would like to tell you a bit more about WoodWing Assets. So WoodWing Assets is a digital asset management solution that integrates with the tools you use, enabling content to be organized across teams and organizations. With the search option, you easily browse through large quantities of incoming materials. WoodWing Assets acts as your single source of truth, providing access to the right digital assets or digital asset versions that are available. You have a central point to manage and organize all digital file formats, and what is interesting that you can review and improve design work in progress, and that gives you the collaborate option. The distribution of content or files to the right people at the right time. Archiving, you can automatically archive print and online content, and last but not least, repurpose, reuse, or reissue content. Well, that was all for me regarding the introduction of WoodWing and WoodWing Assets. Sarah, can you hear me? Will you continue with, Sarah will continue with her introduction to Wrike next. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Magdalena. Good morning, everybody. I think it stopped sharing.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Unfortunately, I was unable to get my camera working this morning, and so you'll just have to use the picture that was of me at the start to visualize what I look like. So I'm going to do a brief introduction to Wrike before handing over to Tuomo to talk about the really interesting part of this presentation, which is how Tuomo and Smartium have implemented their asset management solution. So just to kind of give users or to give attendees some context who may not be familiar with Wrike already, it's a great way to think of Wrike is like your virtual office that connects teams and individuals across the organization and supports them to work in the way that best suits them. Wrike is one of the most flexible and reconfigurable work environments on the market. So it's used by teams from finance to marketing to publishing in this example, all the way through to IT, engineering, and program management. And the way that Wrike facilitates this is by having a very flexible platform and structure that allows users to work in their way. And I thought I'd work through an example of a typical workflow in Wrike to kind of help you visualize how work kind of comes in. So, in a typical marketing workflow, for example, you'll have an initial planning phase where you need to set goals, maybe define approval process for the work that you need to be done. All of these are features that are inherently built into the Wrike platform to make it easier. You can standardize the intake of work through request forms. You can standardize the launch of project plans with blueprints. And then you can, once you've got your work in whether it's a project or an individual task, you can assign that work to the resources that are available based on the insight that you have from the system. You can then easily collaborate across teams by communicating directly in Wrike. Like I said, it's very similar to your virtual office where you can ask questions about the work. You can also self-serve on your own updates to understand what's happening with work. Again, you would go through maybe sign off and approval before passing work to a publisher to create hard copies. And then sort of at the tail end of that process, we have sort of reporting functionality built in so that you can start to get insight from your data over time and really optimize and improve your processes. So in the case of Sanoma Pro, they needed a project management solution that supported all of their core processes. So that was publishing, portfolio management, concepting and testing, content creation, production, publishing, reprints, and all the digital variants of what they create. And that's where they started to look at solutions on the market and decided to use Wrike in partnership with Smartium. So I'll hand over now to Tuomo, who can talk about a little bit more about Sanoma Pro and how they use Wrike and their particular implementation.
Yes, hello. Greetings from a very sweaty Helsinki. We have a heat wave going. I'm Tuomo Suominen. I'm the development manager in charge of publishing project management and digital asset management at Sanoma Pro. And we're an educational publisher. Our headquarters are in Helsinki, Finland, and we're part of the Sanoma Learning division within Sanoma Group. And we provide digital and printed learning content for basically all levels of the Finnish national education system. So quite a broad offering. We have around 170 employees, and around half of those are involved in the editorial and content creation process. Plus, then we of course work with a very large network of external people, authors, freelancers, agencies involved in the content creation and publishing process. And we do around 700 projects annually, and that's including new titles, reprints, and maintenance of digital. So next slide, please. We have been using WoodWing Assets, what used to be Elvis, for over 10 years for digital asset management. And in 2018, we selected, like Sarah said, we selected Wrike as the solution to schedule and monitor publishing projects. And we wanted a solution which was which included the ability to and flexibility to add and edit and remove tasks as necessary per project. And also assign the project tasks and create one central communication platform, which was really important for us in connection with our external collaborators who previously were mostly communicating with us in various ways, email, IM, different platforms. And as the development and production and approval and deployment of digital assets like photo images, illustrations, diagrams, maps, videos, audio, animations are at the core of our publishing projects. It was a top priority for us to link Wrike projects with the digital assets in WoodWing Assets. Next slide, please. So in order to let the content managers and producers and editors and designers and lots of other people in our organization start scheduling and resourcing individual projects, we first needed to come up with a way to create those projects in Wrike as soon as the product decisions are made. And the product decisions in our organization first show up as product master data in the product master data process, which develops that information to create products in SAP. However, the editorial work, which needs to start much earlier than when the product is actually formed into SAP as a fully formed object there. So we couldn't actually wait for the SAP object to be created. So therefore also it made no sense sort of to start working on a SAP integration in order to create projects in Wrike, although that obviously would have been one possibility. So we decided to go very early into the product master data process and capture the data that was on the way to SAP creation process. And that's information in Excel format. And we then decided to go with Wrike request forms to ingest that product master data. And Wrike request forms were there to create projects for basically all stages of the product life cycle that we had established. So from product series development to defining individual products in the product family to individual product projects, and those include stages of authoring, editorial, asset creation, procurement, licensing, copyrights, publishing or printing, and logistics tasks in that workflow. So obviously those are separate workflows for printed and digital products, and as such different request forms and different sets of tasks also. And also reprints of printed products and maintenance of digital products. So next slide, please. In this project creation version 1.0, we created projects by copy-pasting product master Excel data into individual request form fields in Wrike. And since we needed also to provide both in-house teams and external agencies and freelancers project-specific WoodWing Assets collection available to up and download assets to and from our assets environment, then Smartium helped us by creating an assets integration for Wrike. And the request form created both the new project in a provisional folder in Wrike and an asset folder in Assets. And then there's something called webhooks. Don't ask me, I'm not an expert on that, but technology between Wrike and Assets, which picked up the project details from Wrike, created a new folder in Assets, and named the folder in Assets with Wrike details, and created a collection which was then shared back to Wrike, and we had then a share link placed inside the project in Wrike. So anyone who has the access to the Wrike project, so any project team members have a easy access to this shared space. And of course, there were a couple of manual steps, sort of like after the project was in the intermediate folder, we needed to move it manually to our project departmental structure that we had in Wrike, and also click the project progress and health in a way that we wanted them to be displayed and display this information. And of course, also we needed to manually cross-tag the project to, for example, an external agency's view in Wrike, or a freelancer's folder in Wrike, in order to provide them visibility into the projects. And of course, there was the good news that this integration between Wrike and Assets provided this shared workspace. So everybody didn't have to have every single project team member didn't have to have their individual assets account, which was sort of made things easier, not having to mess with all accounts at that stage, since the link doesn't require signing into Assets every time. Of course, the bad news with this technology is that it's a collection in Assets and not a folder, so it doesn't support organizing assets in subfolders within this workspace. So there's a fair amount of zip archives going up and down when assets that need to be or remain in a specific organizational structure need to be shared with different parties in the project workflow. So that's a annoyance in many stages, and really hoping for Wrike and WoodWing to come up with a sort of project-specific dynamic folder hierarchy accessible from within Wrike. Next slide, please. So the Excel data into Wrike request forms, that was a good idea until we realized just how many projects we were about to create and in what sort of batches, so to say. So new titles are created evenly along the year, and even if they come in batches of 5 or 10, that's not a problem as such. But and those new titles are maybe 300 annually. But then reprints, those appear in 2 distinct annual peaks, and those are several hundred at a time. So annually, maybe 400 projects or even more. So as you might guess, in educational publishing, they appear in the spring and in the fall in order to produce products for or reprint the titles for the next school season. And of course, the demand is to have these maybe 200 or 300 reprints in each batch in Wrike right away. And the available resources was yours truly So I estimated that creating 700 projects annually requires almost 50,000 manual copy-paste operations. And I was anticipating early retirement due to carpal tunnel syndrome with this workflow going any further. So it was very ripe for automation. Next slide, please. So we started planning an automated replacement for this all manual Wrike project creation in 2020 with Smartium. And we knew that the product master data was consistent and uniform, and so Smartium designed a solution based on that, which would accept the formatted Excel document as input, then create the projects in Wrike without manual intervention. Well, turns out that we can't set the project progress and health selectors from blueprints, so that's still a manual thing, and I hope that will be corrected in Wrike also at some point. But then, the uploading the Excel to a specific folder in WoodWing Assets was sort of selected as the trigger for this, and of course the Excel sheet must contain the column headers matching the field names, and empty values ignored, and new files can be introduced without modifying the integration, so that those were sort of at the outset. So the integration picks up the Excel file and locks it in assets, and then there's automation that creates new projects for each row of the Excel, and the Excel is parsed line by line, and each line goes as a project in the processing queue. And once they are processed, a Wrike project is created using the selected blueprint for that row. And Wrike project metadata is then populated with the data from the Excel. So project specific WoodWing asset folders are also created in the same process, and the folder share links, just like in the previous version, are copied and injected into the corresponding Wrike projects, and projects are also cross-tagged to the external agency or freelancer folder when that's indicated in the Excel. So and also we have the Excel file with the success markings in the Excel. So if something goes wrong, we can find it from there. So we have an Excel with processed or processed with errors as a result, and in Wrike we have projects with share links, the cross tags, for all the metadata in place, except for the progress and health. But otherwise, it's been a really excellent result in this very fast integration, really reliable execution, and we haven't seen basically any errors in the project creation. Next slide, please. So once we have the projects creation done in Wrike and in Assets, being able to create hundreds of projects of sort of that push of a button, basically, we had the next problem, and content creation projects which eventually get completed, and we had sort of a Wrike constipation problem where we didn't have the possibility to archive completed projects as fast as we created them, and the completed column of progress dashboards filling up really quick, and also when resources were scarce and projects were many at the time. So we had projects piling up in the completed column for months. So 700 annual projects to archive, and we had less than one full-time employee doing this. Not me in this operation, thank God. But the worst problem in this archiving thing was again the reprints which were created, and they are also completed in sort of a very similar time frame. So hundreds of completed projects with assets that need to be archived at the same time. So the archiving turned out to be a very complex and slow process where sort of have to unzip all those InDesign packages we get from external agencies, move the project specific folder in assets to an archive space, and delete project specific links between Wrike and Assets, copy all the PDF files the editorial workflow needs to mark up upcoming reprint changes in Assets, and also remove the share link to the from the Wrike project and move the Wrike project into the archive space. Next slide, please. So a solution was to automate the archiving and cleanup of Wrike and Assets when Wrike projects are completed, and Smart Team designed an automated solution for this, and it's triggered by actually just checking one metadata field in the project, which starts the archiving process. And that trigger metadata field is only available to us working with Wrike administration. So not everybody in the organization. So a project in our workflow, a project is complete when in Wrike when project progress is 100%. That's once all tasks are completed and or cancelled, and the content manager approves the project with the published status. So Wrike Automation Engine Alert notifies us in Wrike administration when a project is 100% ready and published, and that basically kicks off a process which I think Samuli will show in the demo. And really fast integration, very reliable, and again we haven't seen any errors in this, others than some trigger happy content managers maybe jumping the gun and maybe setting the published status too soon, but we can reverse, of course, those too fast archived things back into production, so we can correct the situation. So in conclusion, I think the archiving automation really did enable a really small team to perform a huge number of tasks really efficiently and on time, and I think in fact the archiving wouldn't have been possible with our resources, and if done manually, archiving would have required sort of multiple full-time employees, which I guess then ends up in really good ROI. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tuomo. Now we will showcase the demo.
All right, so welcome to the demo part of this webinar. And to get started, I'll give you a brief introduction on Smartium. My name is Samuli Jokipaltio. I run Smartium. We're based in Finland. We have been a WoodWing partner for 18 years, Wrike partner for 3 years, and we do host quite a lot of assets. And our customers produce quite a few magazine titles and books per year, and we are proud to have over 500 Wrike users that we help managing their project with. So this is a Smartium. We are here. I'm in the center. Two of our key developers, Esko and Jenny, are flanking me, and on to the demo then. Basically, we are going to show you how to create Wrike projects as explained by Tuomo from Excel. We're going to show how the assets, WoodWing Assets link are used to manage the assets or allow for collaboration, and then show the specific archive process here. And these are basically three different integrations we have done, as Tuomo explained, to allow relatively few people to perform a large number of tasks in Wrike, to reduce errors, to make them very productive. So this is our thing. So let's move on to the demo here directly. First of all, like Tuomo explained, we have an Excel file. This is based on the same data that Sanoma Pro uses in the SAP system. It is a list of all kinds of books that are going to be published in any given quarter. This is a source file. So this source file is going to be entered into assets. We have a very specific folder here where this is put at, and I'm just going to go take the Excel file and drop it here like I would drop any other file in WoodWing Assets system. I'm going to say finish, and this file is going to be immediately picked up by our process, and when we go to Wrike, we will see immediately these projects are being created. The first ones went here in the section of math, and as we can see, this project contains a lot more information than just what was in the Excel file, because it is based on a blueprint. So one of the rows here in this source Excel file was the blueprint. So the blueprint tells Wrike how this project is going to be arranged, constructed, and this blueprint will give this project the meat over its bones, basically all the tasks, assignments and things, and the metadata the project uses here, the GTIN numbers, the WBS numbers, project codes, everything here, start dates, finish date. This is imported from the Excel. So now these projects are being created. They're being created in two places, books, which is the internal Sanoma Pro location for them, and then they are also going to be shared with the contractor. So the same project information is going to be shared with the contractor space, so that whoever is helping them to create this, perhaps a print product, has access to this project. Then the next step, what we have here, is the link to the assets system. And this is a very specific link. Each of these projects, they have a different link here. And if I'm going to go to this link here and I'm going to say, click this link, oops, sorry about that. I'm going to click this link and open a share link. I'm going to see that now I have basically a blank space here, which allows me to now go and upload content, which I'm going to do. I'm going to take some assets, which are going to help whoever is working on this project to do this project. We do have a slight limitation here. Tuomo wanted me to emphasize the share links in WoodWing Assets at the moment. They don't have a structure, so it's basically you put files here and they are here in a flat structure. Of course, assets itself, well, when we go here, here we can see which is that these are now being created here, and this is the new collection. Here we have all the folder structure and metadata structure, everything we want, which is very simple to manage. And now these links are here, and they are now available for everyone with this link. We can add links here. We can, in Assets, if I have a login account, we can add them through the link. So basically we have a couple of viewpoints to the materials we're using here. And now moving back into the projects. Let's now the project has been created, it's ready. I'm not going to wait. All these projects have status. The statuses have labels and they have subtasks, and I'm just going to be very fast. I'm going to complete this project by simply selecting everything here, and I'm going to say that they have been completed. So after a while, system processed those ones, and now I got left with the subtasks. I'm going to go and select the subtasks. I am going to say that now these have been completed already. They have been completed, and now I am back here in this project. If I activate this specific Wrike feature that tells me how complete the project is, I'm getting 98% complete, so I have one more field here which I have to say has been completed, and now I can say that I am 100% complete, and I'm going to also say that the project is complete. At this point, we expect our partners, the production partners, to have everything here. So let me go here. I had the link here. 1 second. Here was the link where I uploaded this content, and I'm now going to upload a zip file, a new file to this using the same link. The zip file will contain PDFs that are the print PDFs, the final art for this work. And in order to archive this, I don't want to archive just the material that is has been selected to be used here, but also I want to actually archive the final project, the PDF that went to print. So let's move back to Wrike. Now we agree that we have everything is complete here on Wrike end. All the materials have been uploaded in assets and they have been finished and all the work is done. Now there are only a few people in Sanoma Pro who can do this, but we do have a check button here available for me at the moment, and I'm going to click this button, and by clicking this custom button that we added here, a specific project will start, and we see that now some specific conditions have been met. This has been archived to queue, has been added to queue, and now in a moment this background process that will pick up these archived project to be archived are being processed. They are being moved from Wrike from these spaces with the books and contractor into specific archive points. So they are now out of reach from normal users. They cannot go here, add more hours or mess things up. And at the same time, if I go back to assets, I don't have this information here anymore. This particular book has been archived and it is now in this archive space. And if I go here, I see that all the images are here, and I also see that the zip file has been unzipped and the PDF files have been added here, and now I can see the PDF files here as in a specific location. So basically now this project has been archived. It has been archived in Wrike, both in Wrike and in assets, and we can say that case is closed. So this concludes the demo of the system. It was very quick. Please get back to us in the Q&A if you want more details on any particular point on how was something achieved or what challenges we experienced. So talk to you soon. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Nice video. We have Samuli here and Tuomo for any questions. I'm currently looking at the question section, and yeah, I have one question for Tuomo and also Samuli, do you have any future plans regarding this integration? I mean, do you plan to do something more or improve it in any way possible?
Yes, absolutely. Whenever it becomes available, we want to have a more dynamic linking from within Wrike to the assets folder in assets. So, like Samuli showed in the video, it's really flat file right now, and we have a lot of zip files going back and forth. So we would really appreciate getting subfolder structures into that project-specific folder.
Also, another question is, how can you summarize some of the benefits regarding, all of this that was done with the integration between WoodWing Assets and Wrike? I mean, can you explicitly say, well, we managed to achieve this and that better than what we were doing it before?
I think the short answer is that it wouldn't have been possible without the automations, because, like I explained, there's simply too much work and not enough resources. So it wouldn't have been possible to carry on this processing this amount of projects and assets without automation, actually.
Okay. And a question for Samuli. Did you found this as a very challenging project, or did you have something similar with other customers, maybe not publishers, but maybe it's good to mention? Was this a challenging task for Smart Team as our partner?
I think it was a challenge. Well, I was mainly like looking over as the project manager here. Esko was the person who did most of the coding. It was a bit of a challenge because of some of the goalposts were moving, not just because of Tuomo or us, but working with two systems which are still in a state of growing and expanding and improving may be challenged, because the Wrike API would one day be like this, and then 1 week after it would be a little different, and then 2 months after it would be a little different also, and so definitely this was a challenge, and I think we overestimated our ability to get it done initially, but we are very happy that Tuomo is happy about this, the customer is happy. That's our main reward here, that we ended here in a webinar talking to others about what is possible by adding, in theory, simple automations between a couple of systems. And this was done using custom integration. We did not use any integration platform here. So this was done on AWS technology, webhooks, like Tuomo mentioned, web gateways, queues, Lambda functions. So it was a very interesting project to do. And we have done some other projects for Tuomo, and we will continue to work integrating things with assets and helping to automate Wrike. So yep, definitely it has been a fruitful relationship and very educational one.
Perfect. I have 2 questions, three. Do you have template for each project same, or where do you take tasks lists for each project in Wrike? This is Michael is the asker for this question. So do you have templates for each project, or where do you take the task list for each project in Wrike?
Well, we have blueprints, which would be project templates then for the different stages in the life cycle, basically. So there's concepting, market research, preparation projects, and once those are done, we start creating the individual product-based projects. So for those, we have separate blueprints, of course, for new print titles, for new digital titles, for print reprints, for maintenance of digital products, for example. So and we also have a customer brand which uses different blueprint for their projects. But yes, so each of those has a distinct workflow, thus distinct steps in creating or performing the project also, so in the workflow. So that's why the reason for the different blueprints for each of those.
Okay, next question. I assume you finished the answer, right, Tuomo?
Yes.
Didn't fully understand the archive process. This is a question from Paul. Is the content itself archived into Wrike or only ever in Assets?
I can take that. The project information, the metadata, the discussions, and all this, let's say the status is stays in Wrike, and no content is archived in Wrike. All the assets, files, pictures, layouts, PDF files, that is archived in WoodWing Assets, and it is stored in WoodWing Assets throughout the process. So basically, we keep the process and all the actions status towards the process separate from the asset files. Tuomo can correct me if I did something wrong here.
Well, so sort of the nitpicky answer is that there are a couple of forms in that are in the blueprints already, but that's basically the amount of files we have in Wrike.
Okay.
We have another question. Are your content people using Adobe products like for content creation, like InDesign, InCopy, or do you use another CMS for content management?
We have a custom built CMS within Sanoma Learning, so that's what we use, and also Word, of course, and such. But.
Okay. I have another question for Samuli. Have you already integrated Studio with Wrike as well?
No, we have not done Studio to Wrike integration. So there's this Australian partner, Creative Folks. They have the integration platform called Siphon. Apparently, it has been very successful. We have looked at that, but we have not yet been really hands-on with this system. And we have to see what happens with WoodWing Connect, the new future. I don't know if I let out the secret, but the new WoodWing integration platform that will that may make connecting Wrike to any WoodWing product much simpler. So there is going to be a lot of development in the future in the field of enabling integrations. So we'd be very happy to see more, know more, get our hands dirty when this happens.
Well, I have another question for you, Samuli. Is it possible to use this with WoodWing Swivel, which is the cloud dam from WoodWing?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, basically we created these integrations in a way ready for any future version of WoodWing Assets. So they're based on webhook events, and we use the standard API. So yeah, they're very transportable.
Okay. I have a nice comment. Thank you for the webinar. I've got to go, but it would be good to have a recording of the video and can share it with the team. Thank you, from Damien. Well, of course, everybody is going to receive a recording of this webinar, everybody that registered, of course. I think the Wrike team is going to follow up with an email to the recording. I think it's going to be probably within a day, at most 2. So by the end of this week, everybody's going to receive the recording. And I'm looking through the questions, but I think we covered all of them, to be honest, just to make sure that I didn't miss anybody.
I forgot an important point on my demo. we showed the share link that was sent to users and collaborators, and I forgot to show that at archive, this link is going to is being invalidated immediately. So as soon as we archive a project, the link will become invalid, and whoever had the link will no longer have access to these archived files to keep them safe. So this is the part I forgot. I'm sorry. That's all.
Yes, I have another question. In the meantime, can you handle assets of InDesign in your system?
Yeah, well, InDesign files are very well managed by Assets. We have a number of customers who do like large-scale production, hundreds of users with InDesign and files in Assets. So you can open InDesign files directly from the Assets client, place images, any files to InDesign from the Assets, and this InDesign Assets plugin will maintain the links and allow for all kinds of automations. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I don't know if we should give them a few minutes to anybody that wants to ask a new question, but I think we actually covered all of them this session.
Good.
Do you have any
from Finland point of view, we have to tell everyone happy midsummer, because this midsummer starts a couple of days. We're already feeling it here, so we're going to basically take some refreshments and throw out our clothes and run around in the wheat fields.
Well,
but no bonfires with this heat wave.
Yeah.
I have another question, sorry, in the meantime, while we were chatting, from Bjorn. Any approval processes for images are managed in connection between Wrike and Assets? Are there any approval processes for images that are managed between Wrike and Assets?
Not at the moment, not at Sanoma Pro, no.
Not at the moment, but we're planning on revamping our metadata structure in Assets. So that's an upcoming thing that will be addressed.
Actually, I want to mention that there is an integration from that already exists for WoodWing Assets that actually enables the approval process for images. So in case anybody is interested, please make sure to visit wrike.com or woodwing.com, and you will find out more on the option between the integration. We have another question in the meantime. Does Wrike have to be customized or custom developed to support this process?
No, it's a standard Wrike. The standard Wrike, like Sarah explained, it's very flexible. You can add your own metadata fields. You would most likely want to add your own metadata fields there, and but there's no custom code in Wrike whatsoever.
Okay, well, I think you mentioned a special checkbox, button. So yeah, I think
basically when you add a field, you can make it visible, and you can choose who can see it, who can edit it. So this is so standard, right? You know, adding fields, user rights, part of the learning to use Wrike things.
Okay, well, I really think that we've come to the end of the questions. Do you have any final notes to wrap up this webinar, Samuli or Tuomo?
I think thanks to Smartium for enabling a lot of really useful technology for us, and thanks to Wrike and WoodWing for inviting, having us on this webinar.
It was a true pleasure having you, Tuomo. Thank you also for participating in this very useful knowledge sharing session from a very successful publisher, educational publisher in Finland. Smartium, you have the final word. Please go ahead.
I need to extend big thanks to Esko, who has been the lead developer here all the time. So I have just been like puppeting what he told me to show, and so he's not here, but yeah,
supported
happy about that.
Well, thank you to the whole team of Smartium as well. And well, I think that we can wrap this up because we're almost filling in the hour that we planned for this. It was a very fruitful session for me. I learned a lot, and I'm very thankful to all of our guest speakers today. As I said, if you want to learn more about the integration between the two solutions, please feel free to reach out after this webinar to us. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Magdalena. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.